Well, hello everybody. Let's try this again. Welcome to Lunch Break Live. Real talk about obesity, food obsession, recovery, and what's really eating you. I am Cari Cruz, here with you on a hump day to talk about something really easy. Right. We're going to talk about the difference between recovery and sobriety. And as usual, I'm going to be making some rather bold proclamations. But then again, isn't that what I do every day on the show? But if you're a newer viewer, first of all, welcome. I'm so glad you're joining me. I'm so glad you found me because Facebook is now making a habit of kicking me out the first time I try to go live. That's all right. I'm ready for you. So welcome in newer viewers, welcome in regular viewers, and just know, if there is something that resonates with you, grab a hold of it and run with it. If you don't necessarily agree, if it doesn't really fit, leave it, but keep what fits, okay? That's what they always talk about in 12-step programs. Keep what fits and leave the rest, all right? Okay, so let me see who's here as usual. How are you guys doing here midway through the week if you are joining me live? Let's see. So happy to see your faces. Hi. Now, is it Jeannie or is it Jean? Welcome. So glad you're here. And Joan, I haven't seen you in a while, Joan. And my sweet friend Nancy, regular viewer, loving you. Claudia, how are you? Welcome in. And Anna. And, oh, I see that heart from you, Joan. Thanks. And Jerry. And Hope. Welcome. I'm so glad you're here, Hope. I just love your name, Hope. Because isn't hope what it's all about, huh? We never want to lose hope. So every time you're here, we have hope. See how that works? All right, I'm really glad you guys are here. Sherry, welcome in. And Melissa, thank you for sharing as usual. Oh, Mom, you finally made it in. All right. So before we get too much further in, I would like to remind you all that you are able to share this program right now on your wall so that people can join the show early enough to understand what the heck I'm talking about. So I want to encourage you to please share the show. Jessica, welcome in. Really glad that you guys are here. So without further ado, I kind of like today's show. I'm very excited about it. I mean, I tend to be very excited about shows, but in particular today, this one came to me and I think, hi, Inez, how are you? Oh, it's Claudia. It's Claudia coming through from Inez, Legaspi's line. Okay, now I'm really confused. So, Linda, welcome in. Well, I got confused over Inez and Claudia. You had time to join me before I started talking. See how this works? All right, where are we? All right, recovery and sobriety. Now, as I was starting to say, I'm really excited about this show because I think it's an important distinction to make. And like I said at the top of the show, I'm going to be making some very bold pronouncements, some of which you will agree with and some of which you will not agree with, and that is quite all right because I'm judging no one here. All right, so here's the question. Oh, you should know who I am. I forgot to tell you who I am while I got all excited talking about this. For those of you newer viewers, I am a 2007 gastric bypass post-op, living life in recovery from obesity, and let me think, obsessive, compulsive, addictive, yep. Overeating, yep, all of those things. Living in recovery from that as twice the woman and half the body. And I'm also a recovery rebel and strategist, which means that I help people find and own their crap so they can find their own recovery. Sounds pretty good, huh? All right, so let's dive in. Hi, Jennifer, welcome. Really glad that you're here. I think you're a newer viewer. And Lisa. All right, let's dive in. Here's the question that I'm going to throw out there. You ready? Are you living in recovery or just not killing yourself in sobriety? Got that? All right, I want you to think about that for a minute. Are you living in recovery or just not killing yourself in sobriety? All right, it's a pretty direct question. I get it. I want you to brace yourself, all right? Hang on, because I'm going to try and make sense out of this, all right? All right, so today on my wall, I wrote something pretty clear, okay? Sobriety is what you don't do. Recovery is what you do. And I know I said do, but I broke it up. So just shake it off. Stick with me. All right. You guys are so funny. I had to. All right. So I get it. That seems rather like generalized, like overly generalized or something. And you're like, oh, no. There's shades of gray. And that's not necessarily true. Just work with me here because I have a premise and we're just going to run with it and see what you guys think. All right. So here's what I'm thinking. even if you disagree with me, I would like to, instead of spending time arguing about what's not true about that statement, focus on what is true and build from there, okay? So if you guys are with me, sobriety is what you don't do. Okay, that's what I'm saying. Sobriety is what you emphasis on the don't do. So for example, first of all, let me define the word definition of sobriety. Obviously, it's a state of being sober, okay, which is not being affected. Now, this comes from the dictionary, okay? Not being affected by alcohol, not drunk, and I'm adding not numbed by food. You are clear-headed, dry, and abstinent. So those are the, that's the definition they give online, all right? Synonyms would be serious, grave, solemn, sedate, staid. However, the most common meaning of sober is not drunk, okay? That is the most common and understood meaning. If you're sober, you are not drunk, okay? So, if you're sober then, it means you are not doing the things that make you drunk or high, impaired, numb, vulnerable, uninhibited, incapacitated. Got it? Okay? Those things that do not impact you negatively so that you are not here clear-headed. Okay? So obviously, we're talking about, alcohol and drugs. Obviously, whether they're legal or prescription, by the way, okay, they fall under the category of things that can make you not sober. That's pretty obvious. So you would say that if you want your sobriety, you must not overconsume these substances, okay? And yes, it's true that in the definition of addiction or not being sober, behaviors are included too. But I'm not talking about process addictions today, like sex, gambling, shopping, not addressing that for today, okay? Not in this episode. So the point is, when you want to be sober, you focus on what you must not do, okay? If I want to be sober, I must not drink. If I want to be sober, I must not overconsume food. If I want to be sober, okay, got it? That's what we're focused on. So when we're talking about being sober from obesity or food addiction, obsession, okay, what do we focus on? What are the things we focus on not doing? Let me know. Throw some things out there. What do you focus on not doing if you want to be in sobriety, okay, sober living to treat your obesity and or like obsessive compulsive food addiction, all right? Now again, Facebook is really slow, gives me your answers out of order. I may not see them until I come back, but rather than waiting, let me go ahead and fill in some of those blanks. What do we focus on when we want to be sober from obesity or food? Okay, not eating trigger foods. Thanks, Facebook and Nancy. Not focus on what I eat. So if you want to be sober, Linda, you're saying you should not focus on what you eat, or you should focus on what you eat. Jerry, sometimes you're the windshield, sometimes you're the bug, some days I'm sober, but white knuckling it, sometimes I'm sober in recovery. Jerry says, okay, no running ahead, okay? I may be talking about that later in the show, may or may not. So right now, the question I'm asking is, what do you focus on not doing to be sober? Well, you focus on saying, okay, you should focus on what you eat. Okay, but again, when we talk about sobriety being things that you don't do in order to be sober, okay, you would say, you don't eat this, don't eat that, don't eat too much of this, don't miss your workout, don't go to the buffet, don't drink, don't, right? It's just a lot of don'ting going on if we want to lose weight, right? They always focus on what you shouldn't do. Don't. All right. So recovery, I believe, on the other hand, focuses on things you do. Okay? That's what we're worried about. That's what we're focused on. That's what we're concerned with, I guess you could say. In other words, do make healthy food choices. Do make healthy exercise options or choices. Do go to support group. Do see a therapist. Do celebrate your blessings and successes. Do focus on what matters most, which is what it sounds like Linda was saying there. Do own your crap. Do be of service to others. Do forgive yourself. Do have compassion. Do have courage, seek peace, embrace joy, and live your recovery. Okay? So that is the emphasis when we're talking about recovery, things like that. What do you do to live in recovery? To be sober, it's what don't you do if you want to be sober, okay? So remember what I said at the top of the show. Are you really living or just not killing yourself? Okay? Kind of a subtle distinction. And don't get me wrong, I am not saying that we shouldn't be concerned with or pay attention to being sober. I'm not saying that, because sobriety is serious business by definition. If you are sober, then you're serious, okay? So we want to be clear-headed and present, absolutely. And if we're using, how clear are we in our thinking? Okay, we want to face our fears. We want to live life on life's terms. And if we are active in our addiction or our unhealthy behaviors like obsessing about food, over-consuming food, stuff like that, okay, are we clear-headed? Are we present and able to face our fears and live on life's terms? Or are we busy focusing on that stuff over there that we must not do? Okay, I say we aren't. That's my position. Okay, sobriety is a critical part of recovery. Absolutely. I get that. Being sober, not drunk on whatever substance we're talking about, okay, is important, because when we're sober, we are able to make healthy choices. Okay? We're not compromised. We are able to make healthy choices. We're able to do wise things, serve others, feed our healthy needs, live life on life's terms, able to. Okay? We're able to. It doesn't necessarily mean we're doing it. It means we're able to. It means we address the problem. We are able to address the problem. We don't deny or ignore or distract, okay, from the truth. We don't run away. We do own our crap. We don't air our crap, okay? That's a big difference. We do own our crap. We do not air our crap and beat ourselves up with it, okay? So, quickly, dry drunk. You guys may have heard that. You've heard me use it before. I've done shows on it. It's out there, dry drunk. What exactly is a dry drunk? Well, according to like AA, Alcoholics Anonymous 12-step program, it's someone who doesn't drink or do drugs or, in the case of addiction to food, overconsume food, but continues to behave in dysfunctional ways. So in other words, they're not using, but their behaviors are not necessarily healthy. They haven't changed their ways. So that person has addressed the external behavior, but hasn't made the necessary internal emotional and behavioral changes. Okay? So they may not be using, but they haven't changed, all the reasons they used in the first place. So common saying in AA is this, and I love this. If you sober up a horse thief, what do you get? A sober horse thief. Okay? So in other words, not drinking doesn't mean that the thief is not going to steal horses anymore at all. And if we want to apply it to today's standards, okay, if you sober up a liar, what do you get? A sober liar. If you sober up a bully, what do you get? A sober bully. Got it? So sobriety in and of itself does not change the behavior of, in other words, it doesn't make you do healthy things, but it frees you up so you are able to do them because you're clear-headed, present, and sober, serious enough to take on the task. You got it? Okay, so in all fairness, I have met many dry drunks in my life, and I now know that. I didn't realize it before because I thought that if someone was sober, like in other words, not using, well then that was the same thing as living in recovery. But I've learned now that it's not. A lot of these dry drunks, by the way, are in support groups, virtual and physical ones. So either, online, just online, or in person, okay? And they are people that don't eat certain things or don't do certain things, but they seem to be living only because they're not dying, okay? Do you get it? So I'm supposed to look at them and say that by virtue of the fact that they're not doing certain things, I'm supposed to want that. And now this show's not going to be about dry drunks. Like I said, done one of those already, might do another one in the future. But today really is about the significance of moving to the next step in living in freedom from the tyranny of your diseases. That is what this is about. Okay, we are learning what we need to do and what we need to not do if we want to maintain, achieve, manage a healthy weight. If we want to live and be healthy and be rid of our high blood pressure medications and our type 2 diabetes meds and our heart medications, if we want to get rid of the sleep apnea meds, we know what we mustn't do anymore, okay, if we want to get rid of that, right? But the next step is, what are the things we need to do now to finally live, which is something that was put on hold. I mean, how many of us do a whole lot of living when we are busy just being absolutely consumed by our diseases? I mean, that is all we can do, is just get by, just make it, just manage to live, right? We get sick and tired of being sick and tired. That's because we're just putting one foot in front of the other. That's not living. That's just surviving and not dying, if you ask me. Now, in my case, once I figured out that you can have a food addiction, once I figured out that I was an obsessive compulsive addictive overeater, I started working a 12-step program and attending meetings. Okay, so that's where this started. And I was astonished by how many angry and insecure people seemed to be there. Even those people who said they had 25 or 30 years or more of sobriety, right? They've been sober for 25 or 30 years, and yet they are still angry and insecure. So what is that all about? How do you reconcile that? I mean, I looked at it when I saw those people and I heard them talking. I'm like, wow, I'm not really sure if this whole sobriety thing is all worth it. I mean, if I'm going to spend the rest of my life, worrying about what I shouldn't do or I can't do, well, what type of life is that? I mean, no wonder I ate, right? Because all of that there represents all the reasons I ate. I don't know. I don't know if this sobriety, this recovery stuff is for me. And you know what? I heard people say, I heard this a lot and I still do. You ready? Oh, I am so much better than I was before. Believe me, I used to be way worse. And I struggled with this, okay? I'm like, so you're better now, and I think it's a problem, okay? But you apparently don't think it's a problem because you're better than you were. And I'm like, so is my goal to be better or to be less worse? Like, better than before, but not as good as possible. Is that okay? No. That, to me, my determination was, no, I don't want that. I don't want to just get out there and say, well, I'm so much better than I used to be. I used to weigh so much more, but I'm still overweight a lot, but I weigh more. Okay, I'm not saying don't give yourself credit for what you've achieved. I'm saying, do we have to settle for less than? Do we have to settle for less bad, less unhealthy, or can our goal be to be our healthiest selves, the best version of ourselves, all right? I guess what I'm wondering is this. If saying that I used to be way more insecure, right? Oh, I'm insecure now, but I used to be way more insecure than I am now, or way more competitive. Oh my gosh, I'm competitive, but I used to be way more competitive. So really, by comparison, this is good. Or I was way more worried about other people, than I am now. Now, I mean, I get it. I gossip and stuff, but compared to what I used to do, this is so much better. Or, you know what? I used to be way worried about getting credit for everything. You need to give me credit. Okay, that's mine. That's mine. Give me credit. Okay, but I'm not that bad anymore, just sometimes. And I used to be way more of a people pleaser. Oh, you just cannot imagine. I mean, I would go out of my way, and now it's just like, it's manageable. So it's not that bad. Is that okay with me? No, that is not okay with me. It's not. It's good. Okay, we're making progress. We're on the right path. Why would I stop there? Why would I stop halfway and say, look, I set out to run a marathon. Okay, I understand how far a marathon is. But you know what? I got like a 10K under my belt. I mean, I made it like halfway. What is that? Almost 15 miles. That should be good enough. Not if my goal was to run a marathon. Not if my goal is recovery. That's to strive, always continue to be the best version of myself. So is having those feelings eat me up all that different from being an actively obese, compulsive, addictive, obsessive overeater? If I'm getting eaten up by all that stuff, is that all that different than overfeeding myself? I don't think so. And maybe it is for some, and that's okay. And I'm not here to judge, and I'm not here to decide what is okay for you, because we all have to walk our own journeys, okay? But for me, I don't ever want to settle. I mean, that's just it. I never want to settle. I always want to strive to be the best version of myself that I can possibly be, the best version of myself I can possibly be, not perfect. And if I am comparing myself to someone else, if I am feeling insecure because of what someone else is doing, I'm not living my recovery. I am not living my recovery. I am worried about other people, and I am not focused on myself. I know I can do better, and I know I can be better. And that is what recovery is all about. That is how I distinguish recovery from sobriety. Sobriety says, hey, I'm better than I used to be. Recovery says, I can do better. Okay? To me, that's the difference. So when we use the recovery tools, which again, sobriety enables us to be clear-headed so that we can approach those tools with clarity and mindfulness, right? So when we use the recovery tools to address the reasons so many of us used in the first place, when we used, right? We used all of these reasons why we're going to overdo it, okay? We need to address those, and those tools are found in our recovery. And I'm not talking about chemical dependency here, okay, like the reason people use. Okay, I'm not talking about that. I'm just talking about our desire to run and hide and drop out and numb or deny the tough stuff. We all know what that looks like, okay? And that's why we used. Those were the reasons we used to use, okay? If you don't address the tough stuff, guys, it is still there, even if you're sober. The tough stuff is still there, even if you're sober. And if that's okay with you, okay. But I guarantee you, if you don't address it, you're going to turn to something else. To numb yourself, to feel better, to cope, to deal. You'll use something else. And that's why so many people who have weight loss surgery, for example, turn to alcohol. Because I can't eat anymore to cope, so I'm going to have to find something else. Alcohol sounds pretty good right about now. Shopping, yeah, that gets my mind off it. Retail therapy, oh yeah, baby. You know what? I've never been this pretty. Sex, wow, you know what? Woohoo, I'm having a good time. I'm really living. Okay? Transfer affections, right? So just because you have died to your substance, your use, doesn't mean you are living for recovery. Again, bold statements, I get it. You may disagree, that's okay. But I am sober because I honor my food abstinence list. The list that I made on December 30th, 2013. I am sober because I honor my food abstinence list. I am in recovery because I continue to do my work, own my crap, make amends when possible, serve others, and honestly celebrate the joy of life. I am sober because I don't eat certain things. I am in recovery because I do know what it's like to white knuckle my way through life by restricting myself, scaring myself, punishing myself, beating myself up for imperfections. When I am focused on what I can't do and don't do, well then what's going to happen when I do it? I'm going to beat myself up. And that is not what recovery looks like. Recovery is not about beating yourself up, okay? Do you guys see a difference here? I see a lot of talking going on down there. Here's my question. You don't have to answer it here, okay? You don't have to answer it here. This is for yourself to contemplate, to mull and to consider. Is your goal to be sober, or is your goal to live a sober recovery? The choice is always yours. Okay, so that's my discussion about the difference to me between, not killing yourself by being sober or truly finally living because of recovery. It's a big, big difference. All right, here's what I'm going to do so I don't go long. I am going to... Because once I go down the rabbit hole, it's like another 15 minutes. I'm not going to do that. I am going to instead let you guys continue to talk here for a little bit while I wrap it up. And I promise you, I will come back and I will address these things offline. And if need be, maybe there's a follow-up show. I guess what I just want to leave you guys with, I can never leave well enough alone, I guess, is do you want to just settle and say, hey, I'm better than I was? Or do you want to say, I can be better? You know what I mean? That's really up to you guys. All right. I'm going to remind you all that I do have some recovery teas available right now before I have to place a new order. And I posted them with that cute little picture of me yesterday. Did you guys see that? Did you notice the hair? It's like even, it's like me, totally me. So if you guys looked at that, you'll see the sizes that I have on hand right now that you can order. Otherwise, I'm going to have to wait to order, because you know that's all out of pocket for me to order 25 more shirts in the sizes you guys want. So that's number one. Number two, there's been some discussion over on my bariatric afterlife page, okay? And it is about doing some, to see if you guys are interested in doing some, I guess what I would call real recovery talks that are private, small group, you know, like 4 to 8 people, where we talk about one subject for about an hour. You know, you got to register to get your seat. There's a nominal fee for it. You guys are all there on screen with me, you know, and so we're all sharing. It's not just me talking to you. It's sharing amongst ourselves. Like I said, about 4 to 8 people. It would be something like a Google Business Hangout. So it is very private. No one can just come in and see what we're talking about. So if that is something that you guys are interested in doing, then I'm interested in putting it together for you, all right? One of my regular wonderful viewers suggested this. It's something I had been mulling over, and I thought, well, if she's suggesting it, I'm gonna throw it out there and see if you guys are interested. And again, it would be a topic that you guys are signing up for to discuss, things like regain, the dreaded regain, or transfer obsession, transfer affection, you know. Somebody else talked about honesty, whatever, okay? Whatever you guys want to talk about, we'll set it up and we'll do it and we'll dig deep, okay? So if that's something you guys are interested, I'd love for you to join me. I am going to sign off right now, and I am going to thank you so much for joining me. I am so glad you found the program. If you're a newer viewer, if you're watching me on demand, leave your footprint. I have no idea that you were even here, so let me know that you were here. Give me a little hi, all right, so I know you were here. I am really grateful whether you watch me live or on demand, and I'm even more grateful when you share the show. So I'm going to sign off and remind you all to have courage, seek peace, embrace joy, and above all, live a sober recovery. Remember, you can't stop feeding what's eating you if you don't know what's eating you. I will see you guys tomorrow. Yes, definitely. Take care and share the show. Bye.